Okay, today I'm going to talk about how to design soft jaws for your vise. So, soft jaws, most commonly they're aluminum. You can do steel too. But the purpose of a soft jaw is to have a jaw that is replaceable on your vise that you can cut into and make different shapes for holding different parts. So your typical rectangular part has a straight cut. So here we have a straight cut for holding like a square part or whatever, rectangular part. You can also see I've cut some, like this is an elliptical shape for an elliptical part. I have an even crazier shape in here, and then down below is for holding a round piece of stock. So they're really nice because you can cut a lot of different shapes into them to hold different oddly shaped parts. They also protect your vise. In a lot of cases, if you're going to crash your machine, you run into the soft jaw before you actually run into the vise, which is helpful. So soft jaws, you can buy soft jaws. So I was just looking at monsterjaws.com. They're a common maker of soft jaws. So I was looking at over here a 10-pack of 6x2x1 aluminum standard soft jaws for 6-inch vices, $151. And looks like that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 10 pairs of jaws. So I would say that's actually a good deal. But sometimes it's just better to make your own soft jaws. And that's what I'm going to show you. First, I'm going to show you how to design. And then in another video, I'll show you how to machine them. So I'm more concerned in this video for making the soft jaw itself, as you would see like a blank soft jaw ready to go. I'm not yet going to show you how to like cut your shape into your soft jaw for making a particular part, but just a generic soft jaw. And I'm going to do it using parametric modeling so that you can change the size of these soft jaws and it would still fit into your vise. So let's get started. I downloaded this vise from the Tormac website. So this is the vise I have on my machine. It's a 4-inch vise. And I went directly to the Tormac website, found their 4-inch vise. And it gives me some of the details on the hole tap sizes and stuff. And it's either in one of these, it gives me the step file, which I downloaded and uploaded into Fusion 360. So look at the vise you have, see if you can go to the manufacturer and find that step file or a similar CAD file. And there's also some CAD files for vices saved in Fusion 360's CAM examples. That should be already in your data panel here. So, coming back to this, there's a few things I want to do. Very first thing, I'm going to right click on this top level component and come down to the very bottom, capture design history. So for some reason, when you import a model like this into Fusion 360, it turns off design history capture. And we absolutely want design history to be captured. So that's the first thing. The next thing, let's see if I can... So I'm going to select the top one, hold shift, and select the bottom one. So all these components, I'm going to right click and ground. And the reason I'm doing that is because components, the reason for components is you can move them independently of each other. And since I'm going to use some geometry from this jaw and from this face down here, I don't want those moving around on me because it's my soft jaw is going to be dependent on the location of those holes. So those are the critical first steps. And you can see down here, I already have that design history being captured where I'm grounding those. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is create a new component. So I'm right clicking on the top level component, new component. And this is a new thing in Fusion 360 where you can create your new component as an external file, which is then linked to this file. It's kind of modeled after the way things are done in SolidWorks, where you have assembly files and then part files are separate, so you can work on your part outside of the assembly while it's still linked to that assembly. For this, I'm going to be working on this part only in this assembly, so I'm just going to keep it internal. So the name I'll just call Alex's soft jaw, and everything else is good. I'm going to hit OK. And as soon as I do it, it activates that component, and everything else becomes transparent. So let's see what we want to do here. So this soft jaw, if I click on that soft jaw, it shows me which component it is here with this weird underline striking stuff. So I'll turn off that component because I want to create my soft jaw on this face where it's going to actually go. So I'm going to go, while this component is activated, I'm going to create sketch, click this face, and you can see that rotated the whole vise around on me, so I'm just going to rotate it back to where it was. And I'm doing this by clicking the center button on my mouse. I have the SolidWorks style controls, mouse controls activated on mine. So I'm going to need some of this geometry, that these edges, especially this edge and the location of these holes. So to get those, while I'm in Sketch, I drop this down. There's this project include. I can also, you can see a P here. I could also just hit P on my keyboard to access this, which is what I normally do. So I'm going to project those edges, hit OK. So now those edges are part of my sketch. And then I'm going to turn on this existing soft jaw. So I also want to have these edges. So I'm just going to hit P on my keyboard, select that face and that face, and then make sure I hit OK over here. So then I can turn off the visibility on that soft jaw again. If I zoom way in, it looks like these two edges were nearly the same. I think this inner edge was the original one that I don't want, so I'm zooming way in. I'm going to select that inner edge. I'm just going to delete that because I'd rather have the edge that came off the soft jaw. So inner edge, delete on my keyboard. Okay. So while I'm here, all this stuff is kind of blocking my view of what I'm trying to do. So let's see what component this is. This is the movable jaw up here. I'm going to turn off visibility on that. This is the other soft jaw. I'll turn off visibility on that. And now I can see what I'm doing while I can still see enough of the vise that I know I'm doing what I need to do. Okay, so we have the geometry we need on here. I'm going to create a 2-point rectangle up here. And I'm just going to draw it oversized kind of to here. So I want a few things on here, so I'm hitting escape to get out of that. So I want to make sure that my vise jaw, as I'm modeling it, stays centered on the vise. So I need to add some constraints to do that. And then I also want this line needs to be collinear with this bottom line so that the bottom of my vise to the center of this hole is maintained. So that's an important dimension. Okay, so first thing I'm going to create a line from the origin up to the midpoint of here. And I think that actually, okay. So that's a line from the origin to the midpoint. First I'm going to click that line. You can either hit construction over here or X on your keyboard, but now that's a construction line. I want it to be a construction line because construction lines don't interfere once you're starting to create your solid model. So you can't extrude off of a construction line. It needs to be a solid line like this we have. So I just like to create a construction line so that it doesn't interfere when I go to extrude. So I want that line to be, I'm going to constrain it to be vertical. So I'm going to hit escape now. So that line is vertical. Now you can see if I pull these out, regardless of the width, it is going to stay centered on the vise because I have this line is constrained vertical and it's at the center point of this bottom line. So that's what I wanted. Okay, so my other thing, I want this line to be coincident with this line. So I'm going to hit the, collinear, that's what I meant. Collinear, so I'm going to hit the collinear constraint, going to click this line and that bottom line. Did that not work? Oh, so I held shift to do that. I'm going to hit escape. So that line is coincident. You can see, depending on the background color you have, so my display settings, my environment, I use gray room. So depending on the background color you have, this might be a different color, but with this background color, that line turned white, which means it's fully constrained. I think if you have a white background, it'll turn black. But either way, that line should change color to show that it's fully constrained now. So this is doing exactly what I wanted to do. I want to be able to adjust the width of the soft jaw and the height. So even though the vise is 4 inches wide, I could go a little wider on the soft jaw if I just want a little more gripping space. I don't want to go like several inches wider because then the jaw starts to flex, and you want to be able to clamp your part tightly without the jaw flexing. But I feel comfortable going like a 1/4 inch past the edge, depending on the thickness of the soft jaw. And then I also want the top of the soft jaw to be above the top of the vise just by a little bit, probably a 1/4 inch or so. So that if I need to cut something deep into the soft jaw, I'm not too worried about cutting into the fixed jaw of the vise. Definitely want to avoid that. Alright, so another thing I need to do, I saw a Haas tip of the day video, or I don't know, it was one of the Haas videos on YouTube where the famous Mark Terryberry suggested using slotted bolt holes in your vise so that you can actually flip this vise or the soft jaw over once you've kind of used up one side, and you can flip it over and now you have a fresh soft jaw. So it's just a better use of your materials when you do that. So to create a slot, I need to make sure that the distance from this hole to this edge is the same as the opposite end. So there's basically going to be another kind of hole at this end that is the same distance to this, and then I'll connect those into a slot. So how do I do that parametrically? So I'm going to create a line from this hole down to this edge, and I realize that's not vertical. I did that intentionally. And then I'm going to create a hole from this edge kind of downwards. So this should be vertical. So I'm going to right click or left click, constrain that. Okay, so that made both those vertical. Let's see. So when I put this line in here, it created a parallel constraint, it looked like. So that's fine, but just to kind of show you how I would have done it, I'm going to click on that constraint, delete on my keyboard. So now it's no longer parallel. And you can see just by dragging it vertical, it added that vertical constraint on there. So there's a couple other things I need to do. I'm going to hold shift and select both of these lines. I want them to be collinear. You can hit escape again. And then these lines need to be of equal length. So I'm going to hit, again, shift, select both of these, and hit equal up here. And then escape again. So I can drag. I don't want a vise jaw that's this tall, but just for example, I'm just going to drag this up and work with it at that point. So now I have these two circles here, which represent the through hole and the counterbore on my soft jaw. So I'm going to do so I just hit C on my keyboard, which is circle. I'm going to draw a circle there and another bigger circle. So I'm going to select this, shift select the inner circle, and hit equal. And if you look at my mouse icon, I still have equal selected. So I'm going to select this, and now those two are equal. And hit escape. So now this hole is always going to be the same distance, same size as these holes, and the same distance from that edge as this is from this edge. So I can drag this up and down, I can drag this over and over, and those are constrained to where they are. So I'll do one other thing. I'm going to do I'll do a line from here to here, and I'm just using this as another way to constrain things. So I want this to be a construction line, so it's dotted. So now I'm going to do another line that is horizontal. So I'm hitting escape to finish that line. So I want these two lines to be the same length. So this should be a construction line. So X on the keyboard. Shift select both of these and make them equal. So now this is a location for my other holes. So again, I'll do circle, little circle, big circle, and I'm going to shift select these two circles, make them equal, and then I'll do, while I still have the icon up, I can do those outer circles. and then escape. So this would be a good time to hit save if you haven't already. I just realized that this line is not a construction line, which I want it to be, so I'm going to hit X on my keyboard. And then this line also X. It's now a construction line. Okay, so it's behaving as I want it to. So I want these to be slots. I don't actually want a hole above another hole. I want it to be a slot so I can just machine it as a slot and rather than machining two holes. Seems like it'll be easier. So I'm going to create another line. I'm going to go, I'm intentionally not doing it right at the edge because I want to go back in and add a constraint. So I'll do there to there, there to there. So now that I look at this, I'm thinking a little bit ahead here, but this is a symmetrical part, so there's really no point in me modeling this whole thing and then modeling it over here. So it's good to leave these here for reference, but I'm just going to focus on the one side from here. So got those two lines here. I'm going to, and by the way, you can't see my keystrokes, but I hit escape all the time. Escape is my best friend because anytime you have something on your mouse icon that you want to go away and get just back to the default mouse, just hit escape. So obviously these two lines are not right. I intentionally did them kind of wonky just to demonstrate how this is done. So I want this line to be tangent to this circle, and this line tangent to this circle, and this line tangent to this circle, and this line tangent to this circle. So now it's tangent, it is exactly where I want it to be. So escape. I want to create now again lines from here to here, here to here. And I'm going to make these tangent here to here, here to here, here to here, and here to here. So that gives me the geometry I need for my slot. If you've used a lot of CAD software, you might be tempted to trim out. So I could trim away this geometry. In Fusion 360, I tend to avoid trimming when I don't need to because I can still select the areas I need for extruding. It'll be multiple regions I'm going to select. But when you trim, you start to lose your constraints, and sometimes that gives you unintended consequences. So I'll just leave it at that. Alright, so just thinking through what I need to do next. I need to put a dimension on the height, put a dimension on the width, and I need a vertical line that I can reflect over. And actually, you know what? I really don't even need that vertical line because I have a line here. I can use that line. And it's also, my y-axis is that line. So I actually don't need that line. So, dimension. So this is so I'm going to hit D on my keyboard. You can also sketch dimension is at the bottom of the create menu here. Or D on the keyboard. So I'm going to grab this line, place my dimension over here, and then this right here is a new thing in Fusion 360 where I can actually name my parameter in my dimension. So I'm going to say height equals, let's just for now make it 2 inches, and then enter. So that's a 2-inch tall block. So again, normally I would just type 5.5 or whatever, but if I want to create a parameter that I can later edit, I can do it this way: width equals 5.5. I'll call it 5.5 for now. Or let's just do 5. Width equals 5. So that should give me about a 1/2 inch of overlap on either side. So I'm going to hit escape. So this sketch, you can see when I added those dimensions, it fully defined everything that I need defined. So I'm happy with that. And you get a finished sketch up here. And now I can start extruding. So you can either hit this icon up here or hit E on your keyboard. I always tend to hit E on the keyboard. So there's lots of ways I can do this. But I'm going to first just extrude everything. Let's see if I can do it that way. Yeah, so I'm just going to window select everything. And my distance, so I also want my distance to be parametrically dependent on, be able to change that parameter value. So let's see if this works. This should be a new thing too. Thickness equals, I'll just call it 0.75 for now. And then okay. Again, I'm going to save at this point. It seems like a good point. So you notice I typed thickness, width, height. I'm going to show you where those went. So change parameters. Within my model, if I drop all these down, in sketch 1, I have width and height, and then extrude 1, I have thickness. So I want to be able to change any of those anytime, so I'm going to star height, width, and thickness. And then I can just close this. Those are available for me to come in and change this value anytime, and it will update in my model. So I'm going to say OK there. Save again. Okay, so now I need my slotted holes. So to do that, when I extruded off of that sketch, it hid that sketch on me. So if I drop down my soft jaw menu here, I go into sketches, I got to turn the visibility back on, and now I can extrude. So it's not letting me select the sketch through here. What I can do is just turn off my bodies just for a second. I'm going to extrude this. So that's the center of the slot. I want that to come all the way through. So just select it. I'm going to turn my bodies back on. And then I'm going to drag this arrow out. Let me see, objects to cut. So I could drag it out, far enough that it's going to go all the way through. But the better way to do this is on the extent distance, I'm going to go through all. So when you do that, you need to check your objects to cut. If there was some other stuff in here, like if this movable jaw was visible right now, it would probably have cut that too. So I could unselect that movable jaw. Let me see. Yeah, so since that wasn't visible when I did the extrude, it's not listed down here, but if you ever run into that where it wants to cut through everything in its path, you can uncheck the ones that you don't want to cut. So that slot is there, that's good. And then I want to cut the outer. If it was a circle, I'd call it a counterbore. I guess you could still kind of call it a counterbore on your slot. So I'll do the same thing. I'm going to turn off the body just so I can get to there. Extrude. And I'm going to individually select these regions that are part of what I'm going to use. Turn that body back on. So now you can see our sketch is not on the side of the block that we actually want to cut that slot on. So rather than start at the profile plane, which is the sketch, I'm going to go from object and I'm going to select this plane. So that's where it's going to start. And then if I go in, it'll cut in. So I'm not actually sure off the top of my head how deep I need to go with that. So I'm going to just hit OK right now on that. And then if I'll turn on this soft draw too. So I'm going to measure how deep they went on theirs because it should be a standard bolt that they modeled this off of. So you can go inspect. You can also just hit I on your keyboard, which is what I normally do. So measure or I on your keyboard. So I'm going to measure the distance from here to that bottom of that counterbore. And that distance is 0.375. So I know that. So I'm going to go back into Edit Extrude 3 here, Edit Feature. And I'm going to call this distance negative 0.375. So regardless of the thickness of this part, now that distance is always going to be negative 0.375. Another thing I could do, I might just round that up to 0.38 because the last thing I want is for the head of the bolt to be sticking out of here. Or I might even go a little bit further and just call it 0.4. So I want the head of the bolt to be fully under this surface, just in case I'm ever clamping a part right against this surface. So I'll hit OK now. So now that is where it should be. Now I'm going to turn off the visibility of this sketch over here because I don't need it. I'll hit save. Actually, I might need that sketch for one line. Okay. So create mirror. So I'm going to mirror. I'm not going to mirror faces. I'm going to mirror features. So select features. Objects. I'm going to select. Let's see if it will let me do both of these. This and this. So I'm selecting it from the timeline down here. It seems to be the easiest way to do it. Mirror plane. Okay, so I can just do it off of this. So I'm going to use this plane. If you're going to use that, make sure that you did this grounding like I did, because if this becomes offset in one side from the origin like that, then you are no longer able to use that plane to mirror it, because you want it to be centered. So another thing I could have done, if I'd created a construction plane, a mid plane between like the faces at the end of this block, that would have worked. And You know what? Just to do it right, I'm going to do that. So mid-plane between this face and this face, because I know that I did my constraints right. I know that mid-plane is in the right spot. So let me edit this feature. Oh wait, sorry, that's the midplane. Let me redo my mirror. So I'm going to do features again. So I'll select these two extrudes. Mirror plane is going to be this midplane. And I can honestly tell you, I don't know the difference between these. I think it's so subtle that it doesn't matter for a simple part like this, so I'm not going to worry about it. So I'll just hit OK. And then you can see I have my slots in the right spot. So nice thing with this is if I was to face down this surface a little bit in the machine and flip it over, my slot would still allow me to put that screw in and still be within that slot. So I'm going to hit save again. This is a good idea. I'm going to turn off the visibility of this construction plane. I don't need that. So now everything from here on out is kind of cleanup work. So this vise jaw, it's taller than I really want it to be or need. So I'm going to go back into my change parameters. So I'll change the height of this to 1.5 and see how that looks. Oh no, something bad happened. Okay, so I was hoping that would totally work, but it didn't. So I'll try to explain why. So when I did probably this initial extrude, okay, so that selects all those, that's good, and hit OK. Sometimes you need to go back through your features and fix your selected geometry. So I'm going to look at this. Okay. So something bad happened here. This should be just extruding the center slot. So I'm going to X out of this. Again, turn off that body, turn on the sketch. And reselect those regions. So maybe in this case, trimming would have helped me. Objects to cut. So again, my objects to cut, since this is visible now, I want to make sure it's my soft jaw and not this other jaw. And I'm just going to turn off the visibility on that other jaw. So okay here. Okay, looks like I missed something. Edit feature. Did I miss something? Oh, that looks right. Okay. Okay, so it's on the other extrude here. Edit feature on this one. I'm going to turn off the body just so I can get to this. And that's what I wanted right there. And then OK. Save. So if that continues to give me problems, my guess is that we probably should trim off some of this just so we don't get the extra stuff. Okay, so there's a few other things I want to just clean up in here. So, let's see. I'm going to make the width of this 4.5 just so I have only a 1/4 inch hanging off the edges here. So this looks like a pretty appropriate soft jaw for this vise. The slots allow me to rotate this, flip this over, so if I turn off sketches you can see it a little easier. So the distance from the bottom to this is the same as the distance from the top to here, so this soft jaw can be flipped over and reused. So another thing I want to do is just add some chamfers and fillets because these edges are all sharp. So I like to fillet edges that are can be cut by the radius of the cutter, and then which would be like this corner, and then chamfer edges which are going to be cut with the chamfer tool. So kind of has to do with the direction of the tool. So if you can imagine, when we go to machine this is going to be the top Z surface. So our tool will be pointing down at this surface. So it makes sense to chamfer this edge, sorry, and then fillet these edges. So I could chamfer this too. I just kind of think fillets are kind of a nice look. And again, this is a soft jaw. We're really not concerned about appearance because this is a consumable thing that we are using as a tool to machine other stuff. So, but just for doing it the way I like, I'm just going to add fillets here. So the cool thing is you can select the edge through a corner like that. So you can drag this. I think I'll probably just do a 50 thousandths fillet. That's small enough that I can still put a chamfer on this top edge, but not so big that it's going to be problematic in any way. Okay, so okay there. And then I'm going to do a fillet, or a chamfer, sorry. So I'm going to do this edge, this edge, this edge. I could do this edge, but I'm not really concerned with that edge. I'm more concerned with it when I go to handle this, whether it's going to cut my hands or not. And then while I'm at it, I can add this edge too. I could add the back of those holes, but I'm not really concerned with that either. So let's see. I think a good chamfer is 0.02. It's enough that it's not sharp. This chamfer width does have to be smaller than the radius of this fillet for it to geometrically work. Alright, so okay there. And then I would call that done. Again, if this sketch does become problematic as I change the size of this, I might go in and trim all that stuff out. And while I'm talking about that, maybe I should just do that right now. So I'm going to go back, edit that sketch. Of course, it flips it on me. So I'm going to trim out anything I don't need. And I don't need to trim it on this side because if you remember, we didn't even use this to extrude anything. All the extrusion was on this side, and then we mirrored it over. So I'm only concerned about this side. So there's a scissors to trim. You can also hit T on your keyboard. So let me get rid of that. And you can see these warnings, constraints were removed during the operation. So this is why I try to avoid trimming. Let's see, it's not going to let me trim anything else. So let me just, I can trim this here. Okay, so I think that's enough for it to work. Even though constraints were removed, it usually adds necessary constraints to keep everything working, and it's still white, it's still fully constrained. So I'm going to finish sketch, turn on my body. Okay, so that looks, if I turn off the sketch now, looks like something funny happened. So let me just, I'm just going to drag this timeline back. I don't know if this is 3/4 inch thick anymore, so I can just click this edge. This is now 0.35. So I'm going to drag the timeline back and see what went wrong. Okay. So that's 0.75 thick. So here's my first extrude, which did what I want. My second extrude, I'm going to have to fix this. So you can see I have, that is not the intended extrude. So let me edit feature. I'm just going to get rid of all those, turn off the body, turn on the sketch, and then reselect the regions I want. And it's saying no target body, so I gotta turn on my body again, just so it has a object to cut, body 1. I'm gonna say okay. Okay. And again, there's an error, it's going the wrong direction. Edit feature. So let me first pull it in this direction. Body 1, distance all, okay. Okay, so that's what I wanted. I'm going to go to the next extrude, which it looks like there's an error again. Edit feature. It goes from object, and I'm not sure if it has the right object, so I'm going to reselect this face, and then I think it has the wrong profiles too, so I'll reselect the profiles. So I'm going to turn off the body just so I can get to that sketch. Select 1, 2, 3. So now hopefully that's what I need. Again, no target body to intersect. So objects to cut, I want it to be that body. I'm going to say okay. I turn off the sketch, I can see again, that looks right. So I'll keep going through here. That construction plane is in the right spot. That mirror worked. We fill at the 4 corners, and then that chamfer worked out. So now, again, save. I'm going to check in my parameters. So let me just try to mess with this a little bit and see how that changes it. Let's say if I want to go back to a 2-inch height, a 6-inch width, and then maybe I'll call it like a 1-inch thickness. Okay, so that looks like it worked. So again, my whole intention here is to create a model which I can quickly change the dimensions of and have it still work. So I'm going to go back to, let's say I want to make a 4-inch width, a 1.5 height, and then 0.75 thickness. Okay, so those worked. That's doing what I wanted to do. Looking at this, you can see the vise is actually a little bit more than 4 inches wide, because if this is 4 inches, then that vise is a little wider. So when I do this soft jaw, I probably want to just keep it at like at least 4.25, and really I probably would just do 4.5, because it is nice to have just a little hang off on the side. Alright, so in another video I'll show you how to actually machine this, to do tool paths and machine it. So that's it for here. Make sure you hit save, and I'll see you next time.